In 1932, the US government planned a military coup to overthrow President Franklin D. Roosevelt. War hero Smedley Butler was supposed to lead 500,000 veterans in a fascist takeover of Washington. He refused, testified before Congress, and exposed the conspiracy. The textbooks never mention it. The businessmen who funded it were never prosecuted. And that's just one of 101 things they didn't teach you in school. American history isn't a simple story of freedom and progress. It's a collection of secrets, scandals, cover-ups and unbelievable moments that got edited out because they were too complicated, too embarrassing, or too dangerous to the narrative. This is the real history, the stuff that makes you question everything you thought you knew. Let's start. Number 1. Before America was founded, it almost wasn't. During the Constitutional Convention of 1787, the delegates nearly gave up and went home at least 3 times. The whole thing almost fell apart over slavery, state representation, and whether the president should serve for life. America exists because a few stubborn men in Philadelphia refused to quit during a brutally hot summer. Number 2, George Washington wasn't supposed to be the first president, he was supposed to be king. At the end of the Revolutionary War, some officers wanted to crown him King George I of America. Washington rejected the idea in a letter so furious it's still quoted today. America almost became a monarchy because some founding fathers thought democracy was too risky. Number 3. Thomas Jefferson was $100,000 in debt when he died, roughly $3 million today. He spent money he didn't have on wine, books, furniture, and expanding Monticello while owning over 600 enslaved people during his lifetime. The man who wrote "All men are created equal" died bankrupt while profiting from slavery until his last breath. Number 4. Benjamin Franklin proposed that the national bird should be the turkey instead of the bald eagle. He called the eagle a bird of bad moral character because it steals food from other birds. The turkey, he argued, was respectable and native to America. Congress ignored him. The eagle won. Number 5. Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr had bad blood for years before their duel. But the real reason Burr killed him? Hamilton allegedly spread rumours that Burr slept with his own daughter. The insult was so severe that Burr challenged him. Hamilton accepted, knowing he'd probably die. He did, shot in the stomach, died the next day. Burr was never convicted. Number 6. The War of 1812 was America's most embarrassing military disaster. British forces marched into Washington, D.C., burned the White House, and ate the dinner Dolly Madison had prepared for President James Madison before she fled. The rockets' red glare in the national anthem wasn't inspiring. It was British warships bombarding Fort McHenry. America barely survived. Number 7. Andrew Jackson killed a man in a duel because the guy insulted his wife. Charles Dickinson called Rachel Jackson a bigamist in a newspaper. Jackson challenged him, took a bullet to the chest and still fired back, killing Dickinson. Jackson carried that bullet in his chest for 39 years. It was never removed. Number 8. The Trail of Tears wasn't a relocation, it was ethnic cleansing. Between 1830 and 1850, the US government forcibly removed over 100,000 Native Americans from their ancestral lands. At least 15,000 Cherokee died on the forced march to Oklahoma. Soldiers shot anyone who fell behind. Textbooks call it Indian removal. It was genocide. Number 9. Abraham Lincoln didn't free all enslaved people, just the ones in Confederate states. The Emancipation Proclamation deliberately exempted Union border states like Kentucky, Missouri, Delaware and Maryland. Slavery remained legal there until the 13th Amendment passed in December 1865, 8 months after Lincoln's assassination. Number 10. Lincoln was planning to deport all black Americans to colonies in Central America and the Caribbean. He called it colonization and proposed it multiple times, even meeting with freed black leaders to pitch the idea. The plan failed because no country wanted to accept millions of people, and black Americans refused to leave. Lincoln died before he could push it further. Number 11. The Gettysburg Address was considered a failure when Lincoln delivered it. He spoke for 2 minutes. The main speaker, Edward Everett, spoke for 2 hours. Newspapers called Lincoln's speech silly and disappointing. It took years for people to realize it was one of the greatest speeches in American history. Number 12. John Wilkes Booth didn't act alone. His plot to kill Lincoln was part of a larger conspiracy to assassinate the Vice President and Secretary of State on the same night. Lewis Powell stabbed Secretary William Seward but failed to kill him. George Atzerodt was supposed to kill Vice President Andrew Johnson but chickened out and got drunk. Instead, only Booth succeeded. Number 13. After Lincoln's assassination, his body was moved 17 times because people kept trying to steal it. In 1876, counterfeiters attempted to kidnap Lincoln's corpse and ransom it for $200,000. They were caught mid-heist. Lincoln's coffin was eventually encased in steel and buried under 10 feet of concrete in 1901. Number 14. The first draft of the Constitution had no Bill of Rights. James Madison opposed adding one, thinking it was unnecessary. He changed his mind only after states threatened not to ratify the Constitution without guaranteed freedoms. The Bill of Rights was an afterthought, not the plan. Number 15. Congress almost moved the U.S. capital to the Midwest in the 1800s. Proposals included St. Louis, Cincinnati, and even a brand new city in Kansas. The Civil War killed the debate. Washington, D.C. stayed the capital mostly by inertia, not because it was the best choice. Number 16. The Wild West was way less violent than Hollywood portrays. Dodge City, Kansas, the most famous cowboy town, had only 5 murders in 1878, its wildest year. Modern St. Louis has more murders in a single weekend. Most gunfights were drunken brawls, not duels at high noon. Number 17. Wyatt Earp wasn't a hero, he was a pimp, a thief, and possibly a con man. Before becoming a lawman, he was arrested for stealing horses in Indian Territory. His time in Tombstone, Arizona, was marked by corruption and the infamous shootout at the OK Corral, which was really just a 30-second gang fight in an alley. Number 18. Billy the Kid probably killed only 4 people, not 21. The legend says he killed a man for every year of his life. Records show he was involved in 4 confirmed deaths, and in most of those he wasn't even the shooter. He was gunned down by Sheriff Pat Garrett at age 21 inches, 1,881. Number 19. Custer's last stand wasn't a heroic battle, it was a massacre caused by arrogance. General George Custer ignored warnings, split his forces, and attacked 2,000 Lakota and Cheyenne warriors with just 210 men. Every single soldier in his battalion died. It wasn't courage, it was stupidity. Number 20. The California gold rush killed more people than it enriched. Tens of thousands flocked to California in 1849. Most found nothing. Disease, starvation, violence, and harsh conditions killed an estimated 100,000 native Californians through massacres and displacement. The real winners were merchants selling shovels and supplies, not miners. Number 21. The Transcontinental Railroad was built by exploited Chinese immigrants who were paid less, given the most dangerous jobs, and worked in conditions that killed thousands. White workers refused to do the work. Chinese laborers blasted through the Sierra Nevada using nitroglycerin with no safety equipment. Hundreds died in avalanches and explosions. Their contribution was erased from textbooks for over a century. Number 22. The U.S. government gave railroad companies 174 million acres of free land, an area larger than Texas, plus millions in loans. It was the largest corporate giveaway in American history. The railroads made fortunes. Taxpayers got debt. And it's barely mentioned in schools. Number 23. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb, he stole it. British inventor Joseph Swan created a working bulb in 1878. Edison improved it, patented it, and took all the credit. He also stole ideas from Nikola Tesla, sabotaged competitors, and electrocuted animals in public to discredit rival technologies. Edison was a genius at marketing, not invention. Number 24. The real inventor of the telephone was probably Antonio Meucci, not Alexander Graham Bell. Mucci filed a patent caveat in 1871, but couldn't afford the $10 renewal fee. Bell filed his patent in 1876 and became famous. In 2002, the U.S. House of Representatives officially recognized Mucci as the telephone's true inventor, 126 years too late. Number 25. The Statue of Liberty was almost left in pieces because America couldn't afford to build the pedestal. France gave the statue as a gift in 1885, but the US didn't have funding for the base. Newspaper publisher Joseph Pulitzer launched a fundraising campaign shaming the wealthy for not contributing. It worked. Over 120,000 working-class Americans donated, raising $100,000 in 5 months. Number 26. Ellis Island wasn't welcoming, it was a nightmare. Immigrants were processed like cattle, inspected for diseases, and rejected if they failed medical tests. About 2% were sent back. Some committed suicide rather than return home in shame. The huddled masses were sorted, stamped, and often exploited immediately upon arrival. Number 27. The Johnstown flood of 1,889 killed 2,209 people and was directly caused by wealthy businessmen. They built an exclusive fishing resort and modified a dam to make a private lake. Engineers warned the dam was unsafe. They ignored it. The dam failed, unleashing 20 million tons of water on the town below. No one was held responsible. Number 28. The U.S. government conducted forced sterilization on over 60,000 Americans between 1907 and 1963. Victims included the disabled, the mentally ill, indigenous people, and black women. California sterilized 20,000 people alone. The program was legal, state-funded, and inspired Nazi Germany's eugenics policies. Number 29. The 1893 Chicago World's Fair, celebrated for introducing the Ferris wheel and showcasing American innovation, also featured human zoos. Organizers displayed indigenous people, Africans and Filipinos, in mock villages as living exhibits. Millions attended. No one called it what it was: racism as entertainment. Number 30. America almost went to war with Britain in 1895 over Venezuela. President Grover Cleveland demanded Britain accept arbitration in a border dispute or face military action. Britain ignored him. Then the US threatened to invoke the Monroe Doctrine, and Britain backed down. Most Americans have no idea the countries were hours away from conflict. Number 31. The Spanish-American War was started by fake news. In 1898, the USS Maine exploded in Havana Harbor. Yellow journalism newspapers, owned by William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer, blamed Spain without evidence and drummed up war hysteria. "Remember the Maine!" became a rallying cry. Modern investigations suggest it was probably an accident. The war happened anyway. Number 32. The US didn't just help Cuba gain independence, it occupied the country. After defeating Spain, the US forced Cuba to add the Platt Amendment to its constitution, giving America the right to intervene militarily whenever it wanted. Cuba wasn't truly independent until 1934. Guantanamo Bay is still a US naval base on Cuban soil. Number 33. Teddy Roosevelt charged up San Juan Hill, but he did it on foot, not on horseback, and the hill was more like a slight incline. His famous Rough Riders were mostly rich college kids looking for adventure. The real heroes were the black soldiers of the 10th Cavalry who saved Roosevelt's unit from being wiped out. History forgot them. Number 34. The US invasion of the Philippines killed between 200,000 and 1 million. Filipinos between 1,899 and 1,902. American soldiers used torture, burned villages, and implemented concentration camps. General Jacob Smith ordered his troops to kill everyone over the age of 10 on one island. It's called the Philippine-American War in textbooks, if it's mentioned at all. Number 35. Smedley Butler, the most decorated Marine in US. History later called himself a high-class muscle man for big business, and said he spent his career making countries safe for American corporations. He wrote a book in 1935 called War is a Racket, exposing how wars were fought for profit, not freedom. The military didn't teach his book. Number 36. In 1921, a white mob destroyed the wealthiest black neighborhood in America. The Tulsa Race Massacre killed up to 300 black residents and burned 35 city blocks of Greenwood, known as Black Wall Street. Over 10,000 were left homeless. No one was prosecuted. The massacre was erased from textbooks for 75 years. Number 37. The Rosewood Massacre happened 2 years later in Florida. A white mob burned the entire black town of Rosewood to the ground in 1923, killing at least 6 black residents and 2 white attackers. Survivors fled into the swamps and never returned. The town was abandoned. Florida didn't officially acknowledge the massacre until 1994. Number 38. Prohibition didn't reduce drinking, it created organized crime. The 18th Amendment banned alcohol in 1920. Bootleggers and gangsters like Al Capone made millions smuggling liquor. Alcohol-related deaths actually increased because people drank unregulated, poisonous moonshine. The government even poisoned industrial alcohol, killing 10,000 Americans. Prohibition was repealed in 1933 after 13 years of failure. Number 39. The government poisoned alcohol on purpose during Prohibition. Bootleggers were stealing industrial alcohol and redistilling it for drinking. The Treasury Department responded by ordering manufacturers to add deadly chemicals like methanol and kerosene. They knew people would drink it anyway, they didn't care. Thousands died. It was state-sanctioned murder. Number 40. The 1918 Spanish flu pandemic killed 675,000 Americans, more than died in both World Wars, Korea and Vietnam combined. The government censored information, banned public gatherings too late, and told people masks were unnecessary. Sound familiar? Philadelphia held a parade despite warnings. 4,500 people died in the next week. The response was a disaster. Number 41. The bonus army of 1,932 was a group of 43,000 World War I veterans who marched to Washington demanding early payment of their military bonuses during the Great Depression. President Hoover ordered the military to remove them. General Douglas MacArthur led tanks, cavalry and infantry armed with tear gas to violently disperse American veterans and burn their camps. 2 veterans were killed. Number 42. In 1933, wealthy businessmen, including leaders from DuPont, General Motors and Goodyear, allegedly plotted to overthrow Franklin D. Roosevelt in a fascist coup. They recruited Marine General Smedley Butler to lead 500,000 veterans. Butler reported the plot to Congress. The committee confirmed the conspiracy but took no action. No one was prosecuted. This is called the business plot, and it's barely taught. Number 43. Ford, GM and IBM did business with Nazi Germany throughout the 1932. Ford's German subsidiary produced military trucks for the Wehrmacht. IBM's punch-card system was used to organize Holocaust logistics. GM's Opel division built vehicles for the Nazi war machine. They all profited. After the war, they claimed they lost control of their subsidiaries. None were held accountable. Number 44. The US turned away Jewish refugees fleeing the Holocaust. In 1939, the MS St. Louis arrived with 937 Jewish passengers seeking asylum. The US refused entry. Canada refused. The ship returned to Europe. Over 250 of those passengers died in Nazi concentration camps. America could have saved them. America said no. Number 45. Japanese-American internment wasn't just wrong, it was theft. 120,000 people of Japanese descent, most of them US citizens, were forcibly relocated to camps during World War II. They lost homes, businesses, farms and possessions worth billions in today's dollars. In 1988, the government apologized and paid $20,000 to survivors. It wasn't enough. It never is. Number 46. The D-Day invasion almost failed before it started. The weather was so bad that Eisenhower nearly called it off. If he'd waited one more day, the invasion would have been delayed for weeks, and the Germans might have discovered the plan. The largest military operation in history succeeded partly because one meteorologist predicted a brief break in the storm. Number 47. The atomic bombs weren't just dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The US had a third bomb ready and targets selected, Kokura and Niigata. Japan surrendered before it was used. If they hadn't, a third city would have been obliterated. And there were plans for more, up to 12 bombs by the end of 1945, number 48. The US military recruited Nazi scientists immediately after World War II under Operation Paperclip. Over 1,600 German scientists, engineers and technicians, including war criminals, were brought to America to work on rockets, chemical weapons and space exploration. Werner von Braun, who used slave labor to build V-2 rockets, became the father of NASA's space program, number 49. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment ran from 1932 to 1972, 40 years. The U.S. Public Health Service told 600 black men they were being treated for bad blood. They weren't. Researchers deliberately withheld treatment to study the disease's progression. Even after penicillin became the standard cure in 1947, they continued the study. At least 128 men died. Their families were infected. The program ended only after a whistleblower leaked it to the press. Number 50. The US government tested radiation on unwitting Americans for decades. In the 1,940 seconds and 50 seconds, researchers injected hospital patients with plutonium, fed radioactive oatmeal to disabled children, and exposed soldiers to nuclear blasts to study effects. Pregnant women were given radioactive iron. Most victims were poor, black, disabled, or prisoners. The experiments were declassified in 1993. Number 51. The CIA conducted mind control experiments on US citizens under MK-Ultra. From 1953 to 1973, the agency dosed people with LSD without consent, conducted psychological torture, and tried to develop truth serums and brainwashing techniques. Test subjects included prisoners, mental patients, and random civilians. Some died. Most records were destroyed in 1973 before investigators could review them. Number 52. The Korean War never technically ended. There was only a ceasefire in 1953. No peace treaty was ever signed. North and South Korea are still at war. 36,000 Americans died in a conflict most people barely remember. It's called the Forgotten War for a reason. Number 53. The CIA overthrew Iran's democratically elected government in 1953 because Iran wanted to nationalize its oil. Operation Ajax installed the Shah, a brutal dictator who ruled for 26 years. The blowback was the 1979 Iranian Revolution, the hostage crisis, and decades of hostility. America created its own enemy. Number 54. The US military lied about the Gulf of Tonkin incident to escalate the Vietnam War. On the 4th of August 1964, the Navy claimed North Vietnamese boats attacked US destroyers. Declassified documents later revealed the second attack never happened. Sailors fired at radar ghosts in bad weather. Congress authorized war based on a lie. Number 55. The Pentagon Papers revealed the government lied about Vietnam for years. Daniel Ellsberg, a military analyst, leaked 7,000 pages of classified documents in 1971, proving the US knew the war was unwinnable but continued anyway. Presidents from Truman to Nixon deceived the public. Ellsberg was charged with espionage. The case was dismissed. The war continued for 4 more years. Number 56. The FBI wiretapped Martin Luther King Jr., tried to blackmail him into suicide, and worked to destroy the civil rights movement. Under COINTELPRO, the FBI sent King a letter with surveillance recordings and a note suggesting he kill himself before receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. J. Edgar Hoover called King the most dangerous Negro in America. This is documented fact, not conspiracy. Number 57. The U.S. military sprayed 20 million gallons of Agent Orange over Vietnam, poisoning millions of people. The herbicide contained dioxin, one of the most toxic chemicals known. Vietnamese civilians and American soldiers were exposed. Birth defects, cancers and deaths continue today. The cause, manufacturers, including Monsanto and Dow Chemical, were never held fully accountable. Number 58. The My Lai massacre saw U.S. soldiers kill 504 unarmed Vietnamese civilians, including women, children and elderly, in 1968. They raped women, burned homes and executed families in ditches. The army covered it up for over a year. Only one officer, Lieutenant William Calley, was convicted. He served 3 years under house arrest. Number 59. Richard Nixon sabotaged Vietnam peace talks in 1968 to win the presidency. Lyndon Johnson was negotiating an end to the war before the election. Nixon's campaign secretly told South Vietnam to refuse the deal, promising better terms if he won. The war continued for 7 more years. 20,000 more Americans died. Nixon was never charged. Number 60. The US bombed Cambodia in secret from 1969 to 1973, dropping 2.7 million tons of ordnance, more than was dropped in all of World War II. Congress and the public didn't know. The bombing destabilized Cambodia, empowering the Khmer Rouge, who then killed 2 million Cambodians. America's secret war directly enabled genocide. Number 61. Watergate wasn't just a burglary, it was a massive criminal conspiracy. Nixon's team broke into the Democratic National Committee headquarters, wiretapped phones and laundered money. When caught, Nixon obstructed justice, destroyed evidence and fired investigators. The smoking gun tape proved he knew everything. He resigned before impeachment. Gerald Ford pardoned him. No jail time, no accountability. Number 62. The FBI assassinated Black Panther leader Fred Hampton in 1969. Chicago police raided his apartment at 4 a.m. and fired nearly 100 shots. Hampton was asleep in bed. Forensic evidence showed he was executed at close range. The FBI had drugged him beforehand through an informant. He was 21 years old. In 1982, the city settled a lawsuit admitting wrongdoing, but no one went to prison. Number 63. The US supported Augusto Pinochet's military coup in Chile in 1973, overthrowing democratically elected President Salvador Allende. Pinochet's regime tortured and killed thousands. The CIA knew. Henry Kissinger approved. Declassified documents confirm US involvement. Pinochet died in 2006 without facing justice. Number 64. The Iran-Contra scandal proved the US government was funding Nicaraguan death squads with drug money. In the 1,980 seconds, the Reagan administration illegally sold weapons to Iran and used the profits to fund Contra rebels in Nicaragua, despite a congressional ban. The Contras were linked to cocaine trafficking into the US. Oliver North shredded evidence. Reagan claimed he didn't remember. No one went to prison. Number 65. The crack cocaine epidemic of the 1,980 seconds was fueled by CIA-linked drug traffickers. Journalist Gary Webb exposed connections between Contra-linked dealers and the crack trade in Los Angeles. Major newspapers attacked him. His career was destroyed. In 2004, he was found dead with 2 gunshot wounds to the head. It was ruled a suicide. The CIA later admitted some connections were real. Number 66. The war on drugs was designed to target black people and anti-war activists. In 2016, a former Nixon aide admitted the administration knew drugs weren't the real issue. They needed a way to criminalize and disrupt black communities, and the anti-war left. Mass incarceration followed. Millions were imprisoned for non-violent offences. The architect of the policy admitted it was about control, not public safety. Number 67. Ronald Reagan ignored the AIDS crisis for years. The epidemic started in 1981. Reagan didn't mention AIDS publicly until 1985, after 12,000 Americans had died. His press secretary joked about it. Funding was denied. The LGBTQ+ community was left to die. By the time action was taken, the virus had spread worldwide. Number 68. The 1985 MOVE bombing saw Philadelphia police drop explosives from a helicopter on a Black Liberation Group's house. The resulting fire killed 11 people, including 5 children, and destroyed 61 homes in the neighborhood. The city let it burn. No officers were charged. The only person imprisoned was a MOVE member for surviving. Number 69. The Gulf War in 1991 was sold to Americans with lies. A 15-year-old Kuwaiti girl testified before Congress that Iraqi soldiers threw babies out of incubators. It was later revealed she was the daughter of Kuwait's ambassador to the US, and her story was fabricated by a PR firm hired by Kuwait. The war happened anyway. Number 70. Gulf War syndrome affected over 250,000 veterans who returned home with unexplained illnesses, chronic pain, fatigue, neurological problems. The Pentagon denied it for years, claiming it was psychological. Investigations later found exposure to chemical weapons, pesticides, and depleted uranium. Veterans were ignored, dismissed, and left sick. Number 71. The 1993 Waco siege ended with 76 people dead, including 25 children. The FBI and ATF raided the Branch Davidian compound after a botched weapons investigation. After a 51-day standoff, the FBI pumped tear gas into the building. A fire started. The compound burned. The government blamed the Branch Davidians. Survivors said the FBI started the fire. The truth remains disputed. Number 72. The 1995 Oklahoma City bombing killed 168 people, including 19 children. Timothy McVeigh, a Gulf War veteran, detonated a truck bomb to avenge Waco and Ruby Ridge. He was caught, tried, and executed in 2001. Evidence suggests he may have had accomplices. The FBI says he acted alone. Witnesses reported seeing additional suspects. Questions remain unanswered. Number 73. The US knew about the Rwandan genocide in 1994 and did nothing. Intelligence confirmed 800,000 people were being slaughtered. President Clinton avoided using the word genocide because it would legally require intervention. The US blocked UN action. The killing continued for 100 days. Clinton later called it his greatest regret. Regret didn't save lives. Number 74. The US invasion of Iraq in 2003 was based on lies. Weapons of mass destruction didn't exist. Intelligence was manipulated. Colin Powell presented false evidence at the UN. The war killed hundreds of thousands, destabilized the Middle East, and cost trillions. No one was held accountable. The architects of the war are still free. Number 75. Abu Ghraib exposed US torture in Iraq. In 2004, photos revealed American soldiers abusing and torturing detainees, hooded prisoners on leashes, sexual humiliation, beatings. The administration blamed a few bad apples. Investigations found the abuse was systematic and approved at higher levels. Low-ranking soldiers went to prison. Commanders got promotions. Number 76. The NSA has been illegally spying on Americans since at least 2001. After 9/11, the government authorized mass surveillance without warrants. Phone records, emails, internet activity, everything was collected. In 2013, Edward Snowden leaked documents proving it. He was charged with espionage and fled to Russia. The surveillance continues. Number 77. The 2008 financial crisis was caused by Wall Street fraud, and no one went to jail. Banks knowingly sold toxic mortgages, crashed the economy, and received a $700 billion taxpayer bailout. Millions lost homes. Unemployment skyrocketed. One mid-level banker was convicted. CEOs got bonuses. The system that caused the crash is still in place. Number 78. Police killed Breonna Taylor in her own home during a botched no-knock raid in 2020. Officers fired 32 shots. Taylor was hit 6 times. Her boyfriend, thinking they were being robbed, fired 1 shot in self-defense. Police charged him with attempted murder. The charges were dropped. No officers were charged with Taylor's death. One was charged for shots that missed and hit a neighbor's wall. Number 79. George Floyd's murder was recorded, went viral, and sparked global protests. Officer Derek Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, while Floyd begged for his life. 3 other officers watched. Floyd died. Chauvin was convicted of murder. The other 3 were convicted of violating Floyd's civil rights. It took a video seen by millions to get justice, and even then, it was rare. Number 80. The 6th of January 2021 saw the U.S. Capitol attacked by a mob trying to overturn the presidential election. 5 people died. 140 officers were injured. Rioters hunted for lawmakers, smashed windows, and ransacked offices. The president told them to fight like hell and watched on TV for hours before telling them to go home. Over 1,000 have been charged. The investigation continues. Number 81. The US has overthrown or attempted to overthrow at least 50 foreign governments since World War II. Iran, Guatemala, Chile, Nicaragua, Iraq, Libya. The list goes on. Some were democracies. Most were replaced with dictators friendly to American business interests. Textbooks call it foreign policy. It's imperialism. Number 82. The US is the only country to use nuclear weapons in war, twice. Hiroshima and Nagasaki weren't just military targets, they were cities. 200,000 people died, most of them civilians. The bombs ended the war, but they also demonstrated American power to the Soviet Union. The decision remains controversial. The consequences are permanent. Number 83. The US conducted over 1,000 nuclear tests, including 100 above ground. Soldiers were ordered to march into radioactive blast zones to test effects. Communities downwind were exposed to fallout. Cancer rates spiked. The government denied responsibility for decades. Compensation came only after lawsuits and protests. Number 84. The Dakota Access Pipeline protests in 2016 saw police use military force against indigenous water protectors. Rubber bullets, tear gas, water cannons in freezing temperatures, attack dogs, all deployed on peaceful protesters. The pipeline was built anyway, despite environmental concerns and treaty violations. The freezing camps were raided and cleared. Number 85. American corporations profited from apartheid in South Africa for decades. Companies like Ford, GM and IBM did business with the white supremacist regime. Activists pushed for divestment. Universities and cities eventually pulled investments. International pressure helped end apartheid in 1994, but American companies were complicit until the end. Number 86. The US prison population exploded from 500,000 inches, 1,980, to 2.3 million today, the highest incarceration rate in the world. Private prisons profit from mass incarceration. Non-violent drug offenders serve decades. Rehabilitation is rare, recidivism is high. The system is designed to punish, not reform, and it disproportionately targets black and brown communities. Number 87. Flint. Michigan's water crisis was a deliberate failure of government. In 2014, officials switched the city's water source to save money, knowing the pipes were corroded. Lead poisoned the drinking water. Children were exposed. Officials lied about safety. It took 18 months to admit the truth. Flint still doesn't have clean water. No one served significant prison time. Number 88. Hurricane Katrina exposed how America treats its poor. In 2005, levees failed and New Orleans flooded. 1,800 people died. Thousands were trapped without food or water. The government's response was slow and chaotic. FEMA failed. Survivors were blamed for not evacuating. The city still hasn't fully recovered. Number 89. Puerto Rico was devastated by Hurricane Maria in 2017. Nearly 3,000 people died, more than Katrina. The US response was delayed and insufficient. President Trump threw paper towels at survivors and claimed the death toll was inflated. Puerto Rico is a US territory. Its people are US citizens. They were abandoned. Number 90. The US has 800 military bases in over 70 countries. No other nation comes close. The budget is $877 billion, more than the next 10 countries combined. Meanwhile, infrastructure crumbles, healthcare is unaffordable, and student debt crushes a generation. The priorities are clear. Number 91. Gerrymandering allows politicians to choose their voters instead of voters choosing representatives. Both parties do it. Districts are drawn to guarantee outcomes. Elections are decided before a single vote is cast. It's legal, it's corrupt, and it ensures most Americans don't have real representation. Number 92. The Electoral College has awarded the presidency to the loser of the popular vote 5 times: 1,824, 1,876, 1,888, 2,000, and 2016. Millions of votes are effectively meaningless because of where people live. A voter in Wyoming has 4 times the influence of a voter in California. It's undemocratic by design. Number 93. Corporate lobbying is legalized bribery. In 2022, corporations and special interests spent $4.1 billion influencing Congress. Pharmaceutical companies, gun manufacturers, fossil fuel corporations, they write legislation and fund campaigns. Politicians serve donors, not voters. Citizens United made it worse by allowing unlimited spending. The system is rigged. Number 94. The US has no federal paid parental leave, unlike every other developed nation. New parents are forced back to work within weeks or lose income. Childcare costs more than college in many states. The family values rhetoric doesn't match policy. Workers are expendable. Profits come first. Number 95. Medical bankruptcy is the leading cause of personal bankruptcy in America. 500,000 families a year lose everything because of healthcare costs. Insurance denies coverage, bills pile up, savings vanish. It doesn't happen in other developed countries. In America, getting sick can destroy your life financially. Number 96. Student loan debt exceeds $1.7 trillion, crushing 45 million borrowers. College costs have increased 200% since 1980 while wages stagnated. Degrees that once guaranteed mobility now guarantee debt. Loan forgiveness is debated while billions in PPP loans to corporations were forgiven, no questions asked. The hypocrisy is staggering. Number 97. Wage stagnation means workers earn less in real dollars than they did in 1973, despite skyrocketing productivity. Corporate profits hit record highs. CEO pay is 350 times the average worker. The wealth gap is wider than during the Gilded Age. The system works, just not for workers. Number 98. Climate change is accelerating, and the US is one of the largest polluters per capita. Fossil fuel companies knew about climate change since the 1970 seconds and funded disinformation campaigns. Politicians took their money and denied science. Floods, fires, droughts intensify. Future generations will pay the price for today's greed. Number 99. Homelessness is rising in the richest country in history. Over 650,000 Americans are homeless, many of them veterans. Cities criminalize sleeping in public instead of providing housing. Encampments are cleared. People are displaced. The problem grows. Housing is treated as investment, not a human right. Number 100. American exceptionalism is a myth that hides uncomfortable truths. The country was built on stolen land using enslaved labor. Wealth was extracted from exploitation. Democracy coexisted with apartheid. Innovation came alongside injustice. The city on a hill was always more aspiration than reality. Acknowledging the past doesn't erase greatness, it contextualizes it. Number 101. History is written by the winners, and American textbooks reflect that. Inconvenient truths are omitted, sanitized, or buried. Heroic myths replace complex realities. But the real story, the full story, is richer, stranger, and more important than the sanitized version. America isn't exceptional because it's perfect. It's exceptional because despite all the contradictions, failures, and betrayals, the fight for a more perfect union continues. The question is, will we learn from the history they didn't teach us, or repeat it? The choice, as always, is ours.